Looks like there's some new names officially in the ring to be the next head of the Boston Red Sox. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and upon the initial firing of Chaim Bloom, I mentioned in a couple of different videos that there are probably going to be a million different names thrown out there to be the next head of the Boston Red Sox, whether that be the GM or the head of baseball operations, whatever you want to call it, right? There are going to be a million different candidates, and we're probably going to make a million different videos about these different candidates, and today is no different. There have been more names added to the list of potential candidates for this Red Sox GM position. Some of them old faces that you may recognize, some of them new faces that could be exciting. Either way, they are all now officially candidates for the Red Sox GM position. So what we're going to do in today's videos, we're going to break those people down. We're going to talk about why these people's names may be mentioned when it comes to the Red Sox GM position, what their connection in baseball history looks like, and we're going to be talking about what they could possibly look like as the head of the Boston Red Sox, whether that be in a GM role or a head of baseball operations. But before we get into that, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so we already talked about the 6 sort of initial names that popped up once Chaim Bloom got fired. This list is 5 more candidates to add onto the top of that pile. Now, 3 of those names are actually coming from one article by one Jon Heyman. Now, Heyman has had his issues with accuracy over the last few years, right? But these names are definitely still worth talking about. And the first name on that list is a guy in the Arizona Diamondbacks front office. No, it's not Mike Hazen, but it's a guy who also has connections to the Red Sox and also has done a great job in Arizona, and that's a guy by the name of Amiel Sawdaye. Amiel actually spent time with the Red Sox, a lot of time with the Red Sox actually, about 14 years from 2002 to 2016. During his time with the Boston Red Sox, he worked his way up to VP of Amateur and International Scouting in 2010, where he served that role from 2010 to 2016. Now, during that time, Amiel was a big part in scouting and recruiting and drafting guys like Andrew Benintendi, Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley Jr., Matt Barnes, right? He had a lot of success scouting and developing with the Boston Red Sox. Now, he, like Mike Hazen, took off to the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2016, where Amiel was officially named Senior Vice President and Assistant General Manager, primarily doing a very similar job to what he did with the Red Sox, which is amateur and international scouting. On top of those roles, he also assisted Mike Hazen in making big league decisions. But with his primary focus being the amateur and international scouting, Amiel is responsible for the Arizona Diamondbacks' current farm system, which is ranked 3rd in Major League Baseball, according to ESPN. He's a big reason why the Arizona Diamondbacks had talent like Corbin Carroll, Alec Thomas, and Dalton Varsho. He's done a really great job at understanding and developing and recruiting young and impressive talent. Is Amiel ready to take the next step, right? I think this could be an interesting option for the Boston Red Sox, right? He clearly understands the value of a young, talented core. He understands the value of having a successful farm system. The question here with Amiel is whether or not he could take that next step successfully. We've never really seen him in a control role, right? He's been the assistant, he's been a VP, but he hasn't been the head of a baseball operations before. What would that look like? Would he be able to make the big risky trades? Would he be able to make the big splashy signings? That's a big question surrounding Amiel, but overall, if you're looking at a guy who understands and values the core of a baseball team, this could be a guy the Red Sox turn to. The second name mentioned in Jon Heyman's article was a guy by the name of Sam Fuld, the current GM of the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, Fuld is actually a New England native. He was born and raised in Durham, New Hampshire. He went to Phillips Exeter Academy and actually played a pretty decent amount of time in Major League Baseball. He spent parts of 8 different seasons in Major League Baseball, and then upon retiring in 2016, he took a job with the Philadelphia Phillies in their coaching staff, right? He worked under manager Gabe Kapler and worked his way through the system there. He was actually the runner-up after the 2020 season to be the manager of the Boston Red Sox before the Red Sox he hired Alex Cora. Now, in that time, Fuld has worked his way up through the Philadelphia Phillies system, and entering the 2021 season, Fuld was named the GM of the Philadelphia Phillies under Dave Dombrowski. And this, again, is a really interesting option. Dave Dombrowski is about as opposite from analytical as you could possibly get when it comes to a head of a baseball organization, but that doesn't mean he doesn't respect the analytics, and Sam Fuld is sort of the exact representation of that, right? He's been Dave Dombrowski's sort of right-hand man this entire time, and what he's been for Dave Dombrowski is that sort of analytical wizard, right? That guy who dives deep into numbers. Now, the question with Sam Fuld is, one, would he want to leave that position, right? He's sort of right-hand man right now. Would the Phillies let him leave? And two, the big question here is, could he be sort of that middle ground that the Red Sox have been looking for, right? He's been sort of the analytics side of the Phillies organization for a while now. Could he come over to the Red Sox and take sort of what he's learned from Dave Dombrowski and marry the two, right? Where he could still be that under the radar, diamond in the rough type. We're going to dive through the numbers and see what these guys are worth and what these guys are doing, on top of being the okay, but we still need a big time ace and a big time starter. Could we still get both via trade or free agency, right? That's sort of the big question with Sam Fuld. He's been on one side. Can he do both? The final name on Jon Heyman's list of potential Red Sox GM candidates is a guy by the name of Josh Byrnes, who's currently the Senior Vice President of Baseball Operations for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Essentially, there's Andrew Friedman. Here is Josh Byrnes, right? They're very, very close, and Byrnes has actually been in baseball for a very long time. He started his career in 1994 with the Cleveland Guardians, then Cleveland Indians, and he actually spent time in the Red Sox organization as well. He was an assistant GM to Theo Epstein from 2003 to 2006, where obviously he was a part of the 2004 World Series, and Theo absolutely loved Byrnes. In fact, here is a quote by Theo talking about what Byrnes meant to the 2024 roster. He's a key voice in player personnel. He's got as much of a feel for evaluating and statistical analysis as anyone in baseball. That's high praise from one of the best GMs of all time, right? After 2006, Byrnes made a couple of different pit stops in Major League Baseball. He was the general manager of the Arizona Diamondbacks, key in getting that 2011 team off the ground. He left in 2010 and didn't see it, but his fingerprints were all over that roster. He was, at one point, the assistant vice president of baseball ops for the Padres in 2011. He was a big hand in drafting Trey Turner, getting Yasmani Grandal, and other great moves like that, until eventually coming into his current position in 2014, where Andrew Friedman took over and recruited Byrnes. Now, during his time with the Dodgers, Burns' focus has primarily been on amateur and international scouting. He has been a key part in the Dodgers becoming one of the best organizations in baseball when it comes to international free agent signings and when it comes to the farm system. The Dodgers have been widely regarded as one of the best overall farm systems in baseball for a long time now, and Byrnes has been a key part of that. And I absolutely love this candidate. I think this could be a perfect fit for the Boston Red Sox. Not only has he seen what it means to win in Boston, he saw one of the most crucial championships in baseball history take place. And on top of that too, he's been in the Dodgers organization. Not just been in the Dodgers organization like he works there, but he's been directly under Andrew Friedman for the last almost 10 years. That's a guy who probably understands what it takes to get a team to sustainable long-term success, right? If you are working under Andrew Friedman, you understand the value of a farm system, you understand being able to evaluate and make trades based on that farm system, and you understand how to supplement that core with big free agent signings, right? You essentially can do a little bit of everything, and to me, that's really exciting when we're talking about the potential of Josh Byrnes. There's two other names have been mentioned as potential Red Sox GM candidates, and they're also really interesting. The first of those two names being a girl by the name of Kim Ng, and Kim is currently the GM of the Miami Marlins, whose contract is actually up at the end of the year, which could make her a really interesting candidate for the Boston Red Sox. Kim has been in baseball for a while. She joined a full-time front office role the first time in 1998 with the New York Yankees, where she was there from 1998 to 2001 and was a part of 3 separate World Series. After that, she spent time with the Los Angeles Dodgers in their front office until 2011, where she took a job in Major League Baseball overseeing baseball operations operations as a whole for the entire major league. In 2020, she was officially hired by the Miami Marlins to take over as the general manager. Since that time, she's done some really great things for the Miami Marlins, specifically in the trade market, that we're starting to see pay off in 2023. A couple of big ones are the acquisitions of Dylan Floro, Jesus Luzardo, Brian De La Cruz, and Luis Ariz. They've really made the Marlins competitive. Not to mention, one of the big things wrong with the Boston Red Sox right now is their pitching staff, and the Miami Marlins have one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball, right? She understands how to build and create a rotation, and she's been a really great instrumental piece in making some pretty interesting and creative trades that have gotten her to this point. Now, the problem with Ang, and I think the one big question here, is what is she going to look like in a bigger market, right? Obviously, she hasn't really had the opportunity to sign a lot of really big free agents. The biggest contract she's handed out is to Jorge Soler, which was about $15 million in total over 2 different years, right? So about $30 million in general. What does that look like in a larger market? I don't think there's any doubt that Kim could come in and make that sort of big risky trade for an arm that we've sort of been wanting for a little bit now, but could she supplement that with a bigger contract? Or would she be comfortable handing out that type of money and trying to improve this Red Sox team? That's sort of the biggest question right now surrounding Kim. Now, the final candidate here that's been mentioned a lot is an in-house option, which is Eddie Romero. You guys should probably know who Eddie Romero is, but if you don't, Eddie has been in the Red Sox organization for a really long time. He joined the Boston Red Sox in 2006, and in that time span of almost 20 years now, right, Eddie has spent most of his time overseeing Latin America's scouting and recruiting, essentially, right? In that time span, he's been responsible for a ton of different guys being signed to the Red Sox out of Latin America. Some of the highlights that are on the current Boston Red Sox are Rafael Devers, Cedar Rafaela, Brian Bayo, Brian Mata, right? There's a ton of influence everywhere regarding Eddie Romero. Now, in 2018, after the World Series, Romero was officially promoted to assistant GM, and that's where he stood over the last few years. Eddie, to me, I think when we're talking about in-house options, Eddie Romero, to me, is the clear number one candidate, right? He's done a ton of great things for the Boston Red Sox, specifically in the Latin American market. He has had his hand in 3 different World Series. He's also been a part of 4 different GMs, so he's had a ton of different experience with different outlooks on how to run a baseball organization. He is absolutely loved and admired by the players and the staff of this organization. He's a guy who's worked his way up through the Red Sox. He understands its system as well as I think anyone possibly could. This is a guy who I think could easily make the transition into a GM or a baseball operations role and really be able to take over pretty seamlessly instead of having a full shift in ideologies. Now, that could be a good and a bad thing, right? Eddie has studied under 4 different GMs or head of baseball operations, whatever you want to call them, right? So he's got a couple of different influences here. The question is, obviously, it's a question that's remaining with a lot of these people who haven't been the head of organizations. What does Eddie look like at the helm of a ship? Can he make a big trade? Can he make a big signing? We don't really know what the answer to that question is, but when we're looking at just straight up resumes, Eddie Romero, considering everything he's done for the Red Sox organization, deserves a fair shot at becoming the official GM or the official head of baseball operations for the Boston Red Sox because of everything he's done. So I absolutely love Eddie Romero's name being thrown into the ring here, and I think he could be a really interesting candidate. So now that we've got, 11 different names already mentioned as possible candidates for the Boston Red Sox, what does this look like to you? Are there any names on this list that you think stand out? For me personally, Josh Byrnes and Eddie Romero should be at the top of my list right now. I think those are 2 guys who could come in here. One, you've got Josh Byrnes, who's been with the Red Sox before. He's also been very successful in LA, and he's worked under one of the best GMs of all time in Andrew Friedman. And you've got Eddie Romero, who, like I said, would be a seamless transition and a guy who I think deserves a fair shot at being the head of the Boston Red Sox. I also think Kim Ng is a really interesting option, right? But that's just my opinion. So again, let me know in the comment section down below of this list. Is there anyone that stands out to you that you're like, oh man, this would be fantastic? And do any of these guys or girls interest you more than some of the names that we've already thrown out there? Do you still have someone else at the top of your list? Is there anyone on here that changed your mind? Let me know all your thoughts on the latest Red Sox GM, front office executive, whatever you want to call it, candidates in the comment section down below. As As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.